The keys felt heavy in my palm as I stood in the empty living room of my brand new 3-bedroom condo. Sunlight streamed through the floor to ceiling windows, illuminating the polished hardwood floors I'd spent months saving for. Every square inch of this place represented late nights at the office, skipped vacations, and careful budgeting. This was mine. All mine. I heard the door open behind me, and Travis walked in with that easy smile of his. The one that had charmed me 2 years ago at that coffee shop downtown. "Babe, this place is incredible," he said, wrapping his arms around my waist. "We're going to be so happy here." We. The word should have warmed me, but something in his tone made me pause. "My mom can take the master bedroom since she'll need the attached bathroom," Travis continued, walking toward the hallway. "And Thalia can have the room with the good light for all her photography equipment. That leaves us with the smaller bedroom, but we don't need much space, right?" I stood frozen, my jaw slowly dropping as he gestured casually at each doorway like he was directing traffic. The casual entitlement in his voice sent ice through my veins. "I'm sorry, what?" I finally managed. Travis turned, confusion crossing his features. "For when they visit, obviously. Mom's been saying she wants to come stay for a few weeks once we're married, and Thalia's lease is up next month, so she might need a place to crash for a while. Travis?" I kept my voice level, though my heart was pounding. "I bought this condo. With my money, my savings. My name is on the deed. Mine alone." "I know that, babe." He laughed, that infuriating, dismissive laugh. "But we're getting married in 3 months. What's yours is ours, right?" "No." The word came out sharper than I intended. "What's mine is mine. I didn't buy a 3-bedroom condo so your family could move in. I bought it so I would have my own space." His face shifted then, the easy charm dissolving into something harder. "They're going to be your family too, Emma. Why are you being so selfish about this?" Selfish. That word again. The same word his mother had used when I'd suggested we have a small wedding instead of the 300-person extravaganza she'd planned. The same word Thalia had thrown at me when I'd said I couldn't lend her $2,000 for her photography course. "Get out," I said quietly. "What?" "Get out of my condo, now. We need some space to think about things." Travis stared at me like I'd slapped him, then turned and left without another word. The door clicked shut behind him, and I sank onto the floor, my back against the wall, wondering what I'd just gotten myself into. 3 days passed before Travis called. 3 days of his mother leaving increasingly aggressive voicemails about my disrespect and lack of family values. 3 days of Thalia texting me paragraphs about how I was tearing their family apart. 3 days of silence from Travis himself. "We need to talk," he said when I finally answered. "Can we meet? Somewhere neutral?" "Fine, where?" "Le Bernardin, 7 o'clock tomorrow." Le Bernardin, one of the most expensive restaurants in the city. I almost laughed. Of course, he'd choose a place where he thought I'd be forced to behave, to keep my voice down, to smile and nod like a good little fiancé. "I'll be there," I said. "But Travis, I'm bringing the deed to my condo, just so we're all clear about who owns what." The silence on the other end told me everything I needed to know. I arrived at Le Bernardin at 6:55, wearing my best navy suit and the diamond earrings my grandmother had left me. My armor. My reminder that I came from a line of strong women who didn't let anyone push them around. Travis was already seated at a table near the window, but he wasn't alone. Mrs. Sullivan sat to his right, her perfectly coiffed silver hair catching the candlelight. Thalia was on his left, phone already out, angled toward the empty chair across from them, recording. Of course she was recording. I took a breath, squared my shoulders, and walked toward them with my head high. "Emma, darling," Mrs. Sullivan said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "So glad you could join us for this little family chat." "Mrs. Sullivan, Thalia." I sat down, placing my purse deliberately on the table. I wasn't aware this was a family meeting. Travis said we needed to talk, just us. "Oh, but we are family, dear." Mrs. Sullivan's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Or we will be in a few months, assuming you stop this silly tantrum about the condo." Thalia smirked, her phone still pointed at me. I've already told my followers about your amazing 3 bedroom place. They're so excited to see the room by room tour once I move in. My blood pressure spiked, but I kept my face neutral. I see. Travis, is this really how you wanted to handle this? He had the decency to look uncomfortable, shifting in his seat. Babe, please, just listen. Mom has some really good points about family and. Stop. I held up one hand. Before anyone says another word, let me make something crystal clear. I pulled the deed from my purse and laid it on the table, the official seal facing up. This document proves that I am the sole owner of the condo at 412 Park Avenue, Unit 3B. I purchased it with money I saved over 5 years of working 60-hour weeks. My name, my money, my property. Mrs. Sullivan barely glanced at it. Really, dear, this obsession with ownership is so unbecoming. When you marry Travis, you'll be joining our family, and families share everything. Families respect boundaries, I countered. Families don't assume they can move into someone else's home without asking. Someone else's home? Thalia laughed, finally lowering her phone. Travis is your fiancé. It's his home too. No, it isn't. Not legally, not financially, not in any way that matters. Travis reached across the table for my hand. I pulled it back. Emma, please, you're embarrassing me. My family is trying to be generous, trying to help us start our life together, and you're being so hostile. Generous? I stared at him. Generous would be respecting my boundaries. Generous would be understanding that I worked hard for something that's mine. Generous would be not trying to guilt me into giving up my space before we're even married. You see, Margaret? Mrs. Sullivan turned to Travis, using his middle name the way she always did when she wanted to emphasize her authority. This is exactly what I was afraid of. She's too independent, too focused on herself. Marriage requires sacrifice, compromise. Sacrifice? The word tasted bitter. What exactly would you be sacrificing, Mrs. Sullivan? You want to take over my master bedroom. You've already told Travis which furniture needs to go to make room for your antiques. You've planned which walls should be repainted to match your taste. Where's your sacrifice in any of this? Her face flushed. How dare you speak to me that way? I raised Travis, gave him everything. The least you could do is show some gratitude by welcoming his family. I'm grateful for what you did for Travis. I'm sure you're a wonderful mother. I kept my voice steady, professional. But being a wonderful mother doesn't give you the right to my home. Being Travis's mother doesn't make my property yours to claim. This is ridiculous. Thalia slammed her phone on the table. You know what? I'm going to post about this. My followers need to know what kind of person you really are. Selfish, cold, materialistic. Go ahead. I met her eyes without flinching. Post whatever you want, but you're not moving into my condo. Not now, not ever. Travis stood up suddenly, his chair scraping against the floor. Emma, stop. Just stop. You're ruining everything. Why can't you just be accommodating? Why can't you understand that family comes first? I stood too, gathering my purse and the deed. I do understand that family comes first, Travis. But you seem to have forgotten that we're supposed to be building our own family. You and me. Not you, me, your mother, and your sister in my 3-bedroom condo that I bought with my own money. Don't you dare walk away from this table, Mrs. Sullivan hissed. We're not finished. Yes, we are. I looked at each of them in turn. Here's what's going to happen. I'm going home, to my condo, the one I own. And I'm going to think very carefully about whether I want to marry into a family that doesn't respect boundaries, doesn't respect my property, and doesn't respect me. You're being dramatic, Travis said, but his voice wavered. You don't mean that. I've never been more serious about anything in my life. I turned to leave, but Mrs. Sullivan's voice followed me. If you walk out that door, you're throwing away the best thing that ever happened to you. Travis could have any woman he wanted. I stopped, turned back slowly. Then maybe he should find one who's willing to give up everything she worked for just to make his mother happy? That woman isn't me. The walk to the exit felt like miles, but I kept my head high, my steps steady. Behind me, I heard Travis calling my name, but I didn't stop. Not when I reached the door, not when I stepped onto the street, not when I hailed a cab and gave the driver my address, my home. 2 weeks later, Travis showed up at my door with his key. The key I'd given him when we first got engaged, back when I'd thought we were building something together. "I want to talk," he said. "Really talk. Just you and me." I almost didn't let him in, but something in his face, the shadows under his eyes, the slump of his shoulders, made me step aside. He walked into the living room and stopped, taking in the changes I'd made. The new paintings on the walls, the bookshelf I'd assembled myself, the throw pillows in colors I loved. Not the neutral tones his mother had suggested. "It looks nice," he said quietly. "Really nice. Very you." "Thanks." I stayed near the door, arms crossed. "What did you want to talk about?" He sank onto my couch, and I noticed he was wearing the same shirt he'd worn to the restaurant. Wrinkled now. "My mom won't stop calling. Thalia keeps sending me apartment listings, asking when I'm going to tell you she's moving in." "And what have you told them?" "Nothing." He looked up at me, and I saw something I'd never seen before in his eyes. Fear. "I don't know what to say. I keep thinking about what you said at the restaurant, about building our own family. And I realized I don't know how to do that." I moved to the chair across from him, perched on the edge. "What do you mean?" "I mean, my mom has always made the decisions. Always. Where I went to college, what job I should take, which apartment to rent, and then I met you, and you were so different. So independent, so strong. And I thought maybe you could just fit into my life, into my family, and everything would be perfect. But I'm not a puzzle piece, Travis. I'm a person, with my own dreams, my own goals, my own boundaries." "I know that now." He rubbed his face with both hands. "I didn't see it before. I didn't see how much my mom controlled everything. How Thalia just expects everyone to take care of her. How I let them treat you like you were supposed to be grateful just to be part of our family." "So, what changed?" He pulled out his phone, scrolled for a moment, then handed it to me. It was a text thread with his mother. I scrolled through, my eyes widening with each message. "Margaret, you need to fix this with Emma. Tell her Thalia needs that room by next Friday. I've already called a moving company. Give me Emma's address again. This is your fault. You're too soft on her. A real man would put his foot down. If you don't handle this, I will." "There's more," Travis said quietly. "She went to your building yesterday, told the doorman she was your future mother-in-law and needed to get into your unit to measure for furniture." My stomach dropped. "What?" "The doorman called me because he had my number as your emergency contact. I rushed over and found her in the lobby with Thalia, a tape measure, and a bunch of paint swatches. They were furious that security wouldn't let them up." "Oh my God." "I told them to leave, told them they were out of line. And my mom?" He stopped, his voice breaking. "My mom said if I took your side over hers, I was no son of hers." The room fell silent except for the ticking of the clock on my mantel. "She didn't mean that," I said, surprising myself with the gentleness in my voice. "Maybe. But she said it. And Thalia backed her up, said I was betraying the family." He looked at me with red-rimmed eyes. I drove around for 3 hours after that, just thinking. And I realized something. I've been so afraid of losing my family that I was about to lose you, the woman I actually want to build a life with. I wanted to reach out to him, but I held back. "Travis, this isn't just about your mom showing up at my building. This is about a pattern of you putting their wants above my needs, above our relationship." "I know. And I need to know it's going to change, really change. Not just for a week or a month until they start pressuring you again." He nodded slowly. "I called a therapist this morning, made an appointment for tomorrow. I need to figure out how to set boundaries with them, how to be my own person instead of just my mother's son." "That's good. That's really good." "And Emma?" He stood up, crossing to where I sat. He knelt down so we were eye level. "I need to say something, and I need you to hear me, really hear me." I nodded. "You were right about everything. This is your condo, your home, your space, and nobody, not my mother, not Thalia, not even me, has the right to tell you what to do with it. I'm sorry I ever thought differently. I'm sorry I made you feel like you had to defend your own boundaries in your own home." Tears pricked my eyes. "Thank you for saying that. I want to marry you." "Emma?" I want to build a life with you, but I want to do it right. I want to be a partner, not a project. And I want you to know that from now on, you come first. We come first. Travis, Wait, let me finish. He took my hands in his. I know I have a lot of work to do. I know I need to prove this to you. So I'm not asking you to set a new wedding date. I'm not asking you to forgive me right now. I'm just asking if you'll give me a chance to show you that I can be the man you deserve, the partner you deserve. I looked at him, really looked at him, saw the exhaustion, the genuine remorse, the flicker of hope in his eyes. But I also saw the wrinkled shirt, the phone clutched in his hand like a lifeline, the way he kept glancing toward the door as if expecting his mother to burst through it. I need time, I said finally. And you need therapy. Real therapy, not just a couple sessions to make me feel better. I understand. And Travis, I need you to move out of your mother's house. His eyes widened. What? You still live in her guest house. You have dinner with her 5 nights a week. She has a key to your place. You need to establish independence before you can be in an equal partnership with me. He swallowed hard. That's going to be difficult. I know, but it's necessary. You can't set boundaries with someone who has unlimited access to your life. He stood, paced to the window, looked out at the city below. I watched his shoulders rise and fall with deep breaths. Finally, he turned back to me. You're right. You're absolutely right. I'll start looking for a place tomorrow. Not tomorrow. Today. Right now. We can look together if you want. Something shifted in his expression then. Relief. You'd help me? I believe in you, Travis. I believe you can change. But you have to do the work, and that work starts now. 6 months passed. 6 months of Travis in therapy twice a week. 6 months of him living in his own apartment, 3 miles from his mother's house. 6 months of difficult conversations, boundary setting, and growth. 6 months of his mother not speaking to him. Thalia had posted a long rant on social media about how I destroyed their family, which had gotten her exactly the attention she wanted until her followers started calling her out for entitlement. She'd deleted it within a week. Travis and I took things slow, dated, talked, learned how to be partners instead of just playing roles. He learned to say no. I learned to let him try and fail and try again without rescuing him. On a Saturday morning in April, I was in my condo arranging flowers in a vase when my doorbell rang. I checked the camera and saw Mrs. Sullivan standing there, alone, looking smaller somehow than she had at the restaurant. I almost didn't answer, but something made me open the door. Mrs. Sullivan. Emma? She clutched her purse with both hands. May I come in? I hesitated, then stepped aside. She walked into my living room, her eyes taking in everything. The personal touches, the photos of my family on the walls, the life I'd built for myself. She didn't sit down. I owe you an apology, she said stiffly. I waited. I thought... She stopped, started again. I thought if I could just control things, if I could just make sure Travis was taken care of, had the right home, the right circumstances, he'd be happy. But he's not happy. He hasn't been happy. He's getting there, I said quietly. He's moving forward, growing up, becoming his own person. Her voice cracked. And I'm losing him. You're not losing him. You're just learning to love him differently. She looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw her eyes were wet. He talks about you constantly in therapy. Yes, I know he's in therapy. He finally told me last week. He talks about how strong you are, how you stand up for yourself, how you refuse to compromise on things that matter. I learned that from my grandmother. She must have been a remarkable woman. She was. She always said that teaching someone how to treat you is an act of love, for both of you. Mrs. Twarbown Sullivan nodded slowly. I haven't been a very good mother-in-law, have I? Even though we're not technically in-laws yet. You've been protective of your son. That's not wrong. But there's a difference between protecting and controlling. Yes. She set her purse down on my coffee table, a gesture of surrender. Yes, there is. And I've been controlling. I see that now. After my husband died, Travis was all I had. Him and Thalia, and I held on too tight. I sat down, gestured for her to do the same. She perched on the edge of the couch, back straight, hands folded. Travis loves you very much, I said. That's never going to change, but he needs to be able to build his own life, make his own choices, even if they're not the choices you would make for him. Like marrying you? The words hung in the air between us. Is that really how you feel? I asked. That I'm not good enough for him? No. She shook her head. No, that's not it at all. You're strong, independent, successful. Everything a mother could want for her son. That's what scares me. I don't understand. Because if he doesn't need me anymore, if he has you to lean on, to build a life with, what's my purpose? What do I have left? And there it was. The heart of everything. Not malice, not cruelty, just fear. The fear of becoming irrelevant in her own son's life. Mrs. Sullivan, I said gently, Travis will always need his mother, but he needs her as a guide, not a gatekeeper. As someone who celebrates his choices, not someone who makes them for him. She was crying now, silent tears running down her carefully made-up face. I don't know how to do that. Start small. Ask him about his life instead of telling him how to live it. Celebrate his independence instead of punishing it. And most importantly, trust that you raised him well enough to make good decisions. She pulled a tissue from her purse, dabbed at her eyes. He wants to set a new wedding date. Yes. He wants it to be small, just close family and friends. Yes. He wants you to plan it, together, without my input. I nodded. She took a shaky breath. Then that's what you should do. Both of you, together. We sat in silence for a long moment, then she stood, smoothing down her skirt. I should go, but Emma, may I ask you something? Of course. This condo, it means a lot to you, doesn't it? It does. It represents my independence, my hard work, my ability to create a life for myself. She looked around again, and this time her expression was softer. It's a beautiful home. You should be proud of what you've built here. I am. And I should never have assumed I had any right to it. That was wrong of me. Deeply wrong. Thank you for saying that. She picked up her purse, moved toward the door, then paused. If you and Travis do set a new date, I hope you'll still want me there. As a guest? Not as someone who tries to control everything. I'd like that very much. She smiled then, a real smile, and I saw a glimpse of the woman she could be when she wasn't trying so hard to hold on to everything. After she left, I called Travis. Your mom just left my place, I said when he answered. What? Is everything okay? Did she? Everything's fine. Better than fine, actually. We talked. Really talked. What did she say? She apologized. And Travis? I think she meant it. The silence on the other end told me how much this meant to him. So, I continued, I was thinking maybe we should look at some dates for the wedding. Yeah? His voice was cautious, hopeful. Yeah, something small, intimate, in my condo. In your condo? It's where we had our first real fight, where I learned to stand up for myself, where you learned to stand up to your family. Seems like the right place to start our marriage, don't you think? He laughed, and I could hear the joy in it. Emma Parker, have I told you lately that you're the smartest woman I know? Not in the last few hours. Well, you are, and I love you, and I can't wait to marry you in your condo that I have absolutely no ownership stake in whatsoever. I laughed too, feeling lighter than I had in months. I love you too. Even though you're a work in progress, aren't we all? 3 months later, on a perfect summer evening, Travis and I got married in my living room. 20 people attended. My parents, my grandmother, who came from Florida and told everyone who would listen that she taught me everything I knew about standing my ground. A handful of close friends, Travis's best friend from college, his cousin, and his mother and sister. Mrs. Sullivan wore a pale blue dress and cried happy tears during the ceremony. Thalia took photos but kept her phone in her purse most of the night. They both left by 9 o'clock, giving Travis and me the space to celebrate with our friends. As I stood in my living room, my husband's arm around my waist, surrounded by the people who loved and respected us, I looked around at the home I'd built, the walls I'd painted, the floors I'd chosen, the life I'd created. And I thought about how sometimes the most important boundaries we set aren't about keeping people out, they're about teaching people how to love us better. Travis kissed my temple. Happy, I looked up at him, at this man who had done the hard work of growing up, of becoming his own person, of learning to be a true partner. Incredibly happy. Think we'll ever add my name to the deed? I pretended to consider it. Maybe. In about 20 years, if you're very good, he laughed. Fair enough, it's your space. I'm just lucky you let me live here. You're not living here, I corrected. You're building a life here. With me, there's a difference. There is, he agreed, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Later that night, after everyone had left and we'd cleaned up the champagne glasses and flower petals, I stood at the window of my condo, looking out at the city lights. My city, my home, my life. Travis came up behind me, wrapped his arms around my waist. What are you thinking about? About how terrified I was when I bought this place? About how I almost gave it all up to keep the peace? About how glad I am that I didn't? Me too, even though I was an idiot about it for a while there. You grew. That's what matters. We both did. I leaned back against him, feeling the solid warmth of him, the certainty that we'd built something real, something based on respect and equality and honest communication. You know what the best part is? I asked. What? This is still my condo, my name on the deed, my space. And somehow, that makes me feel even more ready to share it with you. Because you're choosing to share it, not being forced to. Exactly. He turned me around to face him. Emma Travis, he said, trying out my new name. Although I notice you kept Parker as your middle name. Emma Parker Travis, I confirmed. I'm not giving up who I was to become who I am. I wouldn't want you to. And as I kissed my husband in the living room of the condo I'd bought with my own money, saved with my own hard work, I thought about how the best kind of love isn't the kind that asks you to sacrifice who you are. It's the kind that encourages you to become even more yourself. My condo, my choice, my life, and somehow wonderfully also ours.